White House released a memo further clarifying what it called the legal basis for the strike. The document has stirred widespread media attention as it appeared to shift Donald Trump's main rationale for Soleimani's killing, emphasizing it as a response for alleged past actions rather than future ones.
Although the threat of further attack existed, recourse to the inherent right of self-defense was justified sufficiently by the series of attacks that preceded the January 2nd strike.
Well, President Trump's decision to assassinate General Soleimani sparked protests across the world, with many in the Middle East considering him a martyr and denouncing America's action. Initially, the White House justified the attack by saying the general posed an imminent threat to U.S. forces and property.
Compelling case of an imminent threat.
Imminent threat.
Soleimani was plotting imminent and sinister attacks on American diplomats and military personnel. I can reveal that I believe it would have been 4 embassies.
Well, let's cross live now to independent researcher and writer Soraya Sepahpour-Ulrich. Thanks for joining us, Soraya. Good to have you on today. We heard back in it was January now, that Soleimani posed an imminent threat. We heard threats to attack embassies, U.S. property, U.S. personnel. This is quite a turnaround, isn't it? Why do you think there's been such an about-face here?
It is a turnaround only because it's been submitted in writing, but even back in January, we knew that, in fact, there was no imminent threat. And certainly the Democrats were outraged because when Mr. Pompeo justified it and then they're on Trump, they couldn't stick to the same line. They kept changing and saying it was 4 embassies or 2 embassies, and they knew that there was no imminent threat at that time. And in fact, the former Iraqi prime minister in early January, Mr. Abu Mahdi, had said that General Soleimani was in Iraq to broker peace between Saudi Arabia and Iran to de-escalate tensions. So we knew all this. This memo does not come as a surprise. What does come as a surprise is the fact that we tend to forget what happened a month ago. And in February, Nancy Pelosi, in the State of the Union, applauded Donald Trump for the assassination. So we must not think for a moment that the two sides differ in their ideology, in their push, and in applauding assassinations and violating all laws, all international laws. I mean, preemptive self-defense is never a justification for assassination. And we know that that wasn't even in the plans.
Speaking of laws and legal bases, the document refers to the 2002 authorization for use of military forces against Iraq to justify the strike. Now, obviously, Saddam Hussein's regime has long since passed into history. Do you think using this law as a basis for military action is justified?
Well, unfortunately, it's not, and I think our Congress is very reluctant to change it. I mean, there are several lawmakers, Republicans, who did speak out against it, but still, Trump has veto power. And it's not just the 2002 law that was passed. America is in the habit of attempting to assassinate leaders that will not succumb to its will. I mean, we know how many times they tried to assassinate Fidel Castro. And thereafter, and there have been numerous other occasions when it did take out foreign leaders. President Ford passed a law that this should be stopped, but it never did. And again, after 9/11, I mean, look what happened in Libya. And unfortunately, I'm not going to place all the blame on the United States. The world has withstood this kind of behavior for far too long. They never stopped the assassinations. They never stopped the illegal wars. And at every turn, it's almost as if other countries stood by thinking, well, if I throw, say, Iraq or Libya or Syria in front of this beast that wants to occupy the whole world, then I'll be safe. So nobody has stood up to what America is doing. So America alone is not responsible here. It's all those people who are, in a sense, complicit with their silence, with their inaction. The United Nations condemned the assassination of General Soleimani, just in the same way that they condemn the increased settlements all the time or Israelis' actions. Then what? What are the consequences? And there needs to be consequences for this kind of outlandish behavior that's jeopardizing the whole world. I mean, this assassination was a threat to General Soleimani was a threat to the United States in the sense that peace is a threat to America. Without, if there is peace, then America cannot have an excuse to expand, to exploit, and to occupy. So peace was a threat to them, not General Soleimani's actions as a martyred general that was loved by, beyond Iran's borders.
Okay, independent researcher and writer Soraya Sepahpour-Ulrich, thanks for coming on today. Good to have you on the program.
Thank you.